I'm Brian.
And this is R&B Talks.
How y'all doing?
Yep.
Yeah. How you doing, Reg?
I'm good, man. I'm just glad solid. To be here today doing the show because we didn't do one last week because we did two the week before because you were busy.
Yeah. So
I missed it. I'm having like show recording withdrawals.
I had a son who turned 16, dude. It's I'm not gonna lie. It's exciting for him. It's a new kind of thing for him.
But it is like when you turn 16, that's like a milestone.
But at the same time, as his dad, the thought of my 16-year-old son, I mean, he's 2 years away from starting to make serious decisions, which I will affect everything. And one of the things I've enjoyed most in my life is being a father.
I know, but you'll get to find out if you did your job right here soon. I mean,
I hope so.
When he's on his own, that's when you really get to, because remember, like, and you probably the same way, like your head's not on straight till you get to like at least mid 20s, if not 30s, right?
Oh, mine wasn't on straight until I had been married for about 8 years.
That's what I'm saying. So I mean, you don't really know if you did your job right until like.
Let's just be truthful. It may not have been on straight into the last 8 years. You never know.
Oh man.
Right. How are you, man? Doing good?
Yeah. It's just really busy, man. I don't normally take 2 classes at a time at Liberty because of the time that is required. But yeah, I had 5 classes left for the apologetics degree. And it was like, I didn't want to take like one class just randomly. So it was like I bundled up a couple this week, this 8-week period. So it's just busy with that stuff. But, work is picked up quite a bit. It's insane right now too. So that's probably more than anything. But, like I said before, changing my perspective about things, and like, so my stress level hasn't quite been, I haven't let it get so overwhelming and stuff. So I'm doing okay, you know?
Good. It's been a dental work week for me. I have plastic teeth, just so everybody knows. I'm getting a bridge, and they don't just leave you there. They put plastic teeth in. I feel like I should be getting ready for Halloween with plastic teeth, the vampire teeth. But
yeah, dental work's the worst. I don't know. I just can't. I don't know. I'd rather break my arm than like get.
I don't know about breaking my arm.
I don't know.
But there's about 256 different things I'd rather be doing than getting my jaw hammered on by the dentist. Saying,
but even ailments, it's like I don't know. There's like I just detest, I guess is the right word, dental work. It's like I just hate it.
Well, and I was in the chair for like an hour and a half, which was unpleasant there and there. But I love my dentist. He's a good dude. His staff is good, but for me, I just don't. For me, it's the noise. Like when they're in your mouth, it sounds like they're doing road work in your mouth. Like it's like, and then you smell burning teeth. And you're like, what is happening? Why is something on fire
in my mouth?
Yeah, exactly. It's moist in there. There shouldn't be fires.
There's a lot of friction happening.
And he's like, whoossie. It just, And it's inside your head too. So it's in stereo. Like it's. Oh yeah. Your bones are rattling and everything. Yeah. Sometimes,
it's different though now than when it was when we were kids.
That's true.
We were a kid. I remember when I was a kid, man, my dentist, he just didn't care. You get gassed up and he just go, and you'd be like, it just didn't matter.
They didn't gas me up, dude. They just started drilling and shaving and poking. And
so I need more Novocaine or whatever the hell they're shooting you now or not now, but I've always needed more. So it's always one of those things where they'll shoot me up and then they'll come back in and go, is it numb? I'm thinking, well, it feels like it probably is. And they'll go to do something and I'll be like, whoa.
And then you pee just a tiny bit. And you're like, wait.
Whoa. I have a lady nurse.
A lady nurse?
A lady dentist.
Why does your dentist have nurses?
I know, dude.
What in the hell is going on inside your dentist office, Reggie?
I do prefer this. This is my favorite dentist I've ever had, though. She's actually, I don't feel like, and I really don't want to be a tough guy anyway, but like, I really don't feel like I have to hide anything. Like I tell her like, look, I hate this. And I know you get that a lot, but I'm just telling you, like, for me, like, this is like the worst thing ever. So she's funny as hell about it, but
this is the literal worst thing ever.
I don't like it, man. It's just one of those.
You know, the only other experience I've ever had in a doctor's office, and this is not a joke, man. And I had bruises from this, and my wife will testify to this. We went to get I think it was I don't know if it was a tetanus shot or something like that. And we were at this clinic, and this little like 5'1" Hispanic girl was giving me the shot. And you know how sometimes they pinch up a little skin. No, she took the plunger in her hand like she was going to put it in my heart. Took a step and stuck that thing in my shoulder like she was playing jarts. Yeah, and it hurt, but at the same time, I was in a state of disbelief. I was like, "Did you really do that?" And my wife looked at me and she was like, "Did that really happen?" And I look over at her and she's like, and then her excuse was, "You're a big fella." I was like, "Well, horses are big, but I don't see veterinarians taking a running start." You know, I'm like, "You're professionals, right? Be professionals."
Lawn dart in your arm, man.
Oh, dude, man, it was the strangest thing I've ever experienced in a doctor's office.
Yeah, there's a lot. You know what? I don't dig the physical stuff. Like when they do a physical every year, right? It's just like, why do they need to check? Like it's like what they do. I'm like, can't you do that with like other, like, why are you're like, you know, filling up all over.
Why are you squeezing and making me cough?
But it's not that I'm like, wouldn't I know what I always, and I asked her this, you know, I would probably know if I had a hernia, right? I mean, like, wouldn't that be like one of those things where it's not a question, like, you know?
I've known several people who've had hernias and they're extraordinarily painful.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so really, is this just the medical field's like excuse to rub my balls, you know, kind of thing? I mean, you know, it's like, what the hell?
I feel like every doctor's visit, there has to be a moment that's weird.
No, I don't
like
have
just a weird moment. Or they'll like ask you a question like, you know, have you ever like performed jujitsu with a seal? And you're like, what? I'm like, why are you asking me this weird question? But they're doctors, so you must assume that they know what they're talking about, right? You know, oh, no, I've never done jujitsu with a seal, but thanks. You know, do I smell? What's going on?
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
My doctor's cool. She's a Colombian chick. I don't. Okay, now let me. In fairness, I say I know she's from, like, her heritage is from Colombia. You know, she's obviously American, lives here, but I say that because I want to make sure I get that right.
You want to qualify things.
Well, but so she's amazing though, because she's straight up with me and I'm straight with her and she understands. I'm like, she'll tell me like, well, you really should do this. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that or that or that. So
you really should do these 6 things. No.
I tell her, I'm like, no, you know, she knows. It's just funny. But
it's like my doctor said, you shouldn't lift heavy weights anymore. I was like,
why?
I'm too old, apparently.
No, when you get older, you're supposed to do strength training.
But apparently that's not the prevailing wisdom amongst general practitioners.
Yeah, I don't think they got that right, dude.
And I'm like, I'm never going to stop doing that. I'm going to continue to push as heavy a thing as I can push as often as I can. And you're just going to have to shed it.
All right. So speaking of health stuff, right?
Okay. Lay it on me, dude.
Here's one thing I was thinking about this week, right? It's like, I am way too sedentary. I have too much going on where I'm sitting in a chair or whatever. And I'm not doing anything that much anymore. I mean, it's like I used to get up and I was doing like cutting down trees or yard work or some kind of farm work every day. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm not doing it. It's like, I'm so busy doing everything else. I don't get a chance. So I really have to change that up. And I was looking, and it's not that I think I have to like start. Okay. I'm not looking to be like that, you know, Hugh Jackman, 40-something-year-old ripped as hell guy. That's not what I'm looking at. I just need to make sure I'm healthy, right? And not losing muscle mass. So I was looking at a couple things, and because there's, this led me back to, I think I might have mentioned this before, but like there's I forgot the name of the company, but they do genetic DNA testing to see what supplements and stuff you need to fix certain things that are genetically don't do. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, along with that, they have it's called the Ultimate Human Experience, I think is what they called it. Gary Brecka or something like that.
Yes, Gary Breckham, I think it is.
I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
It seems legit, but he's I mean, like, and obviously he's I don't know how old, because you can't tell because he's like really in shape, but he speaks really well. He talks about all the certain like enzymes and stuff. He's really bright, seems like. Mm-hmm. But you never know these days because it all costs money. That's the thing.
Well, I mean, being someone who is in that business, I will tell you the basic wisdom. Eat less, move more.
I know that. I was saying a company like with the genetic testing supplement type thing, I'm not quite sure about that. It seems legit, but there's not a lot of data because it's kind of new.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that, and it's expensive. It's not cheap, dude.
Yeah, they're all expensive.
These genetic tests that these supplement things are pretty pricey, and it's like, well, and if the reason why I'm kind of looking at it for me first, because I want to, if it screws me up or something, I'd rather me get screwed up than like my wife or even my kids, because you can still do it with your kids and stuff, right? To help them with stuff.
I would recommend, before you do anything, go to a YouTube channel called Renaissance Periodization and listen to a guy named Dr. Mike Israetel. Mike Israetel is about as wise when it comes to what your body needs and how to take care of it as any human alive, and the information is free. Mike Israetel is somebody that I follow a lot. I use the Renaissance Periodization app. What up? And it functions really well for me. It's been a real game changer for me as far as getting stronger, getting leaner, and not having to work myself to death, right?
I'm not worried about that, man. I mean, like, I've always been that guy who like pushes the limit on stuff.
But he does. But what he gives you is just common sense, and he has a whole section of the YouTube channel which is making fun of celebrity workouts, which is hilarious, by the way. But if you get into the meat of what he is on YouTube and you listen to him, he's actually super brilliant. He's a professor of exercise science, and he is a absolute madman genius kind of guy.
I have to check it out. I know that, like, and I was reading on like folic acid, right? Mm-hmm. Because of what they treat all this. So the enriched stuff you buy is got all this, and you if you lacking some marker that you can't process that correctly, and that leads to other problems. And like ADHD is not deficit, it's overload, and that you have like there's a genetic component that if you take some kind of specific vitamin stuff, it'll help you all this crap, right?
All reasonable.
So it's like, just, you wonder.
Well, the number one advice I give most people is get your gut biology tested and straight, right?
Right, because you can't process some stuff.
Well, a lot of times it's not necessarily that you can't process it. It's that your gut biology is so far off that it's impeding you processing it. And once you get your gut biome straightened out, you need to make sure that the simple ways for nutrient intake are working, which is through food. But a lot of times with a jacked up gut biology, you don't even get that. So that would be the first thing I would say is work on getting get into a good probiotic. I take 2 billion pre and probiotic a day, which is sounds like a lot, but it's just some little chewables.
Well, I know.
It helps straighten out your stomach. And then once you get that done and you start to L-pupinating regularly and everything starts working and the system starts undulating and doing all the things it's supposed to do.
See, whenever I've done that though, it never did anything.
But you got to do it for like 60 straight days.
Well, I know. I'm saying I'd go through like a big bottle,
Yeah.
and like it doesn't do anything, like for me anyway. I don't feel any different. There's no difference.
Yeah, but you're pretty close. I mean, you're not exact, but you're pretty close. Knowing what you eat, you're pretty close to a carnivore style diet, right? Like you eat a lot of meat. You don't eat a ton of veg. You don't eat a lot of carbs.
No,
if any.
I try to stay that way.
So you're pretty close to carnivore. I would dare say, Reggie, if you got into some kind of semi-regular like workout routine, you would lose pretty quickly.
I know I got that daggone rowing machine, dude. The water rower. It's beautiful. Yeah. I love the thing. The only problem I had with it was the seating position. Like if my feet are out here and like I have trouble with it. It's like
your knees go out like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's
a
like
lot of them don't have an adjustable.
Yeah, I need to sit higher.
Yeah.
So I got a pad and I put it on there, and that helped a little bit. But even that, I still need to figure out a way to, because it was really uncomfortable, and I thought this is not good. Like when I was doing it.
And by the way, Reggie's rower looks like something from the Modern Art Museum.
It does. It's crazy.
It's kind of.
Well, it was. Look, so it's oak. So that was killer, right? But the thing I had to do was I did not want a rowing machine that someone would sit on the damn thing and it creak and like
make 9,000 kinds of noises.
Yeah, and then or it would just like break in a couple years or whatever. I mean, it's like this thing is solid. It's not.
It's a beast.
Yeah, and I'm a big guy. I got to have something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. We have to mention Carl Weathers.
Dude, Apollo Creed is dead.
I know, man. And not only that, I mean, like, think about Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of my, like, all-time favorite movies of all time. And that scene where he grabs a hold of Arnold's, like, in the beginning, and they do that, and it's that is just one of the most coolest dude action scenes ever. And it's not even, it's just like,
need I mention Happy Gilmore?
Yeah, well, dude, I mean, come on.
Chubbs, man. Dude, he was great in that movie.
I know.
He was hilarious.
It was awesome.
And not some things that people didn't know about Carl Weathers. He was a very, very talented singer and musician as well.
I actually did know that.
He's a very talented singer and musician, which was very admirable. He was a very multi-talented guy. And I really, really liked pretty much everything he was in. And he played, I know this is kind of, but he played the perfect foil for Rocky in the first two movies. Like Rocky 1 and 2 would have been no good without Apollo Creed.
I don't think so. I think it would have been different for sure.
Yeah. Like Apollo had all the attitude and the, and then for him to come back in, Rocky 3 and train Rocky and then come in 4 and want to make a comeback. And then he was killed by Ivan Drago. And then Rocky carries a tree up a hill in the snow and beats him up in the memory of Carl Weathers. And I will be honest with you, that was kind of a shocker to me because he was a healthy, strong guy. And I still don't know exactly what he passed away from.
I don't know either. I mean, who knows any more these days with all the kind of cancers and whatever that goes on, because who knows?
But they said he passed away peacefully in his sleep. So I'm wondering if he might have caught like an aneurysm or maybe had a heart attack. And very large percentage of heart attacks happen while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So
you don't know, man. But it was one of those. It's one of my those action heroes you grew like guys or whatever that have been in the movies and stuff that you watched all the time, and you just that's really sucks.
Yep.
Now Sylvester Stallone talked about him in that Netflix special of his, the Sly or whatever. So that was pretty cool. But that's cool.
Yeah, it's just I find that more and more. I mean, musicians, actors. Just all of the influential people from my youthful part of my generation are just passing away rapidly, right?
It's that age, man. I mean, that's where we're at in our life, dude. We're getting to that stage where we're like moving into the.
Well, I feel like we're in that. I was having this conversation the other day. I can't remember with who I was having it, but I remember very vividly having the conversation of feeling like I'm stuck in between. I'm stuck in between the youth and heading towards the older age, right?
We're the golden era, bro.
Or the golden era, right? And I'm watching the younger generation kind of come into their own, and I'm watching the older generation fade out. And that's, I don't actually know how to feel about that, man. Like
it's interesting.
It's a very different place to be in your life, right?
Well, it's kind of like that's relatable to when my dad passed away, right? Because it's like, then you realize like, oh, I am now the patriarch. You know, I'm the oldest man in the family,
Yeah.
Like that was a different thing.
Yeah.
It's like, whew.
That's a heavy responsibility.
I'm the oldest brother of the family now of his branch. Right. And it was like, ooh, that's a little heavy, there's that, that's different. Now we still have my wife's dad's still around. So there's like when he goes, I'll be really feeling
by the way, cool guy, like super cool guy.
Yeah. Like George,
like he's so cool. Yeah. He's like that, he instantly made me feel like the favorite uncle thing, right? Like this is the coolest dude. Right. So yeah, kudos to him.
We are so alike, dude. It's funny. We are so alike, a lot alike. And my wife laughs about it all the time. And grieves about it, actually.
Grieves about it. Well, they say that women marry men like their father.
Well, apparently it took her too like a long time to come around to that though.
Yeah.
So
I'm nothing like my wife's dad, so I'm not really sure what she was thinking.
Well,
And my wife's dad, what a brilliant, smart.
Yeah, I like your wife's dad.
Kind.
He's good.
Like
good people.
He's that person that you want to emulate, right? Like he's always there to help. He's always willing to lend a hand. He's hyper intelligent. Like, and even in his 70s, just thirsts for knowledge, man. Like he wants to know things. He wants to learn things. And I'm sort of starting to kind of feel that part of myself come alive, where I'm in that, like I've told you before, I'm in this discovery stage of reading and, looking at how to make my life become bigger and better and faster. Right. So,
but that's also biological.
You think so?
I think so. We as men go through stages of how we grow.
Okay.
And I think some at one point, and I forgot where I read this, but it was like once you get to adulthood, you start off as a warrior, what they called it, where like you're focused on your physical fitness and like, how your prowess and all that kind of stuff. That's really where you're only focused at. Right. And then you get to a stage where then that leans into the, more cerebral activity, and a sage stage or something. I don't know. I forget what the name of this, but anyway, it talked about that, and I resonated a lot with those stages of your life that you go through where you focus your stuff on. Right. I mean, it seemed logical to me anyway, and we're very much a reflection of that. I would say both of me and you, for that matter.
Speaking of stages, we are at the stage of the podcast where we should allow our sponsor to have some space.
We should. Sponsor?
Go get it. We all learned a thing or two about viruses over the last few years.
Are we talking just computer viruses or?
Yeah.
But have you thought about protecting your computer against the latest threats?
At EMTCC, they've learned how to fight off viruses faster than Marvel can put out another superhero movie.
Woo! Don't know where to start? They can help you develop a plan and implement strategies for that situation.
Reggie, did you know they are set up with all the latest and greatest technology to help prevent cybercrime?
I did not, but now I do.
Absolutely.
Visit www.emtcc.net to set up an appointment, or give us a call at 1-888-551-2770.
Mention R&B Talks and receive 10% off your initial appointment. Remote and on-site options are available. And we're back.
We are back.
All right, Reggie, I have something that came up for me this week.
Let's go.
It kind of was in my head, and I'm very, very interested to know what your opinion on it is. I've noticed this kind of weird dynamic between larger churches, mediate or moderate sized churches, and small churches. And I don't know if it's just me noticing it or if it's actually a thing, but I noticed that smaller churches, and this is not a thing, when they preach a sermon series or something like that, they go from a very lesson-based, like, we're going to do this series, we're going to get this thing, and we're going to put it together, and we're going to make this, and we're going to cover this, and we're going to have the nice cover photo and all things. And then you go to moderate churches, they tend to do the same, but they tend to freewheel a little bit more, right? Like, they tend to get a little more creative. And I find that the larger churches, although they will follow a sermon series, they are much more unscripted in their delivery, so to speak, a little bit. And I don't know if that's just a difference in preaching style, or is that really actually a programming thing, right? And I was talking to several people this week, and one went to a big church and one went to a more moderately sized church, and we were talking about that, and I just realized that there's this, and I don't know if that's because of a limitation in availability of resources or what that is.
Okay. I don't have that same experience, though. I would say I have the opposite. The middle of the road kind of churches in size, when I've gone to those services or whatever, that has been more free and not restricted with time or as much.
Yeah.
Now, I know when I was playing at a mega church in the worship team and all that kind of stuff, everything was scripted, like timed, period. Like, it was very much a production. Every service.
Even the sermon?
Yeah. Sermon's timed. It's got, they do that. They did the sermon live at the main campus 3 or 4 times the weekend and streamed it out of there to here, but it was still the same message all those times. So he had to be almost scripted for that stuff to make it all be the same, right? So when I think you get to a certain point, and then it does become like a whole production where it is very much detailed out and planned.
Do you think that perception might come from the size of the audience and the way that the audience is perceiving the information?
Maybe, because if you go to like a bigger church, okay, so there's a couple things to this really. The bigger churches are going to have your preachers that are likely more, I dare not say talented. That's not what I mean, but they're like the more educated,
more dynamic,
their speaking ability, because it's like any other career field. The way you can present the information, if it's accurate and you're presenting it in a helpful way, and you're charismatic with the way you speak, you're going to go to one of these bigger churches that allow you the resources and stuff to do everything you can do. Right.
Okay.
So so when you're at that level, those people are usually writing books. They're usually very public figures. They're usually, it's hard to even get to them, that kind of thing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to come with that kind of characteristics. Okay. Your smaller churches, though, are usually like people that are just like in the community that, whatever,
Yeah, for sure.
So it doesn't come with the same, not all the time, doesn't come with the same like education or speaking ability or whatever the case may be. Now you find some small churches that are fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. I mean, hell, even in Encounter when we were there, Michael was great with how he could deliver the information. He was very much that way, but middle churches are kind of a mix of all kinds of things,
Well, and a lot of it too is, I hate to be this guy, but do we play to our audience, right? Like, do we, if you feel that you have a certain type of congregation, are you crafting the information directed at that congregation, right?
Well, I say it's your duty to do so. That's your sheep. You're the shepherd.
But my question, should you be challenging with your delivery and with the information that you're delivering and what your expectations are of the use of that information, right?
When you say challenging, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, I've been in churches where it's a great sermon, but me personally, I'm looking for tools to use that I can take out into the world that are going to help me engage more, right? And a lot of sermons are they're very boxed in, and they don't do a lot of challenging, which is, I mean, I've said this before. I think some of the best things that we can hear inside of a church is testimony. And I believe that small, medium, and large churches ignore that so much, and they lose so much because they do, because you can Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Peter, those are all books that I've read and I'm pretty familiar with. And I appreciate a good sermon that'll give me a different look at a book that I'm pretty familiar with, right? But if I go into a church and I hear someone's story, someone's, start, tribulation, and then finding their way to God, and also hearing how they're even currently facing challenges, and to me, that's powerful. That's God actually moving, right? Like that's a way for me to see God moving in people's day-to-day lives.
Yeah. I get you.
So I don't know. I feel, I don't know what to feel, honestly, because this conversation was very kind of off the cuff. That wasn't the intention of the gathering of people that I was in, but it was just a very kind of eye-opening kind of look at how people see different. We're very lucky where I go to church because our pastor he's a very funny guy. So there's a lot of humor that's mixed in with a lot of like deep meaning and things like that. And I do get a lot out of his sermons and I really enjoy them, but I just had heard these people talking and I was like, I'd never looked at it that way. Right.
Well, okay. I guess my perspective should come from, like, if you said, "Hey, Reggie, here's a church. You're now going to preach at every Sunday." How would I do that? I think that's to help answer that question. It'd be like a mixture of topics and situations, and whether I'm have accountability items for the congregation, or whether I have like action items to do, or if it's just information that I'm delivering. I think there's going to be a mix of things that happen or that gets presented to the congregation.
Okay.
Right. Cause there's the reality is that most of your church body isn't going to be the people that open up their Bible at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And then you'll have some people who think they know everything about the Bible, but know very little bit about it. You'll have some people in there like me or you who are serious about our faith, and we try to keep up with it.
Yeah.
But in general, that's your congregation is going to be usually that kind of way, old, and hopefully it's a mix of young and middle, younger, and older, all that kind of stuff, right? You have a mix of things, right? Yeah. So, but a lot of church bodies aren't like that. They have like all old people. There's a few young people. There's all families. There's very few singles people, or there's like, you have churches like that too. So as you're the pastor or the preacher or whatever your position might be called, you are going to have to look to your congregation and who you're presenting to, and make that purposeful. You may you may give like well, for instance, you may have a testimony on one week to show, to really bring in some reality of how God's working and all that kind of stuff. But there's other times you may go through a book of the Bible, a very with a very defined goal of just understanding the scripture more.
Yeah. Very true.
So I mean, I think you're going to have a mix of stuff if you're actually preaching to a smaller congregation and meet kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Well, what I would say for you though, for me, and what I've had to do is I have to keep in mind even I can't remember the passage where it was at, but Paul's telling in one of his letters that he always remind your brethren of the gospel, always. And we need that. We need to be reminded of it often, because it's like one of those things we tend to just stray here or there with our mindsets, but we always need to be reminded of the gospel. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm with you though here, and like, okay, look, I've already read, the New Testament front to back, like, I don't know how many times, but I don't have it memorized. So
no. And so I'm not saying, and let me be clear, I'm not saying at all that those are not important things. Like I can't tell you how many times I've listened to a sermon about, take Mark, for instance. I've listened to a sermon and really gotten a fresh perspective on some things. Sure. And I appreciate that.
Sure.
And I think that's a very, very God-given talent that ministers have, is to provide fresh perspectives on, the core gospels and things like that. I think that's very important. But, I wonder, do you think the dynamic has changed for what the church needs to deliver, in the sense of, because if you look at everything that's going on, let's look at counterculture, right? Let's look at, transgenderism, homosexuality, all those things. I believe that one of the reasons why their messages really hit home a lot of times amongst those people, not amongst us, but amongst those people, is there are strong stories of survival that they bring out that people can resonate with, right? Oh, that's a powerful story. And I think a lot of times they'll bring out a powerful story, and in hopes that the story will be so powerful that you will forget the subject matter with which the story originates from, right? Mm. So it makes me wonder if we as a church body, as the ministers, do they need to be fighting fire with fire, right? Because I feel like, some of the most impressive things that I've heard in the church is when I sit down and hear someone's personal story. Their hell, their high water, right? They're where they've had to go, the depths they've been in and the heights they've been to, and how they've come to the point where they're at right now. That's a very powerful thing in my mind. And I feel like it's a very underutilized tool. We all know the story of David, right? We all know the story of Abraham. We all know the story of Samson. We all know, but those are set in historical times, and in a lot of ways people can't relate, right? Like, I get the story of Samson. I get the story of David. I get the story of Abraham. I get the story of, but do I get the story of my neighbor who's in love with Christ and wants to work so hard and give, without measure? That to me is a connecting story within your community, right?
Well, and I would say too that, not that I wouldn't, I would say that, yeah, it's very much a powerful thing to have it again, mixed in with your preaching and stuff. I want, there needs to be more of the sharing going on though in our community. I think that's part of also where we're at post pandemic type of nonsense, right? Where we're not getting together as much as we were.
Yeah, that's,
you know what I mean?
We are still in this state of paralysis from the pandemic that is just, it's just, I'm going to say it, and this is honestly how I feel. I feel like it's nonsense. I feel like at this point it's over, right? Let's move on and let's get on with life. And I feel like I don't know. I never had an irrational fear of COVID. I never felt a need to hide or, lock myself away and I was never afraid of it. So to me, it's very irrational. And I know people that have COVID and have had COVID and they've done fine, right? And I know people who've struggled with it. But for me, dude, we have to live, right?
You can't shut everything down, man.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
We've
World
proven,
keeps moving.
Well, we've proven that shutting everything down had an even more profoundly negative effect, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm, but I think we're too busy, and I'm speaking for myself.
yeah.
We're too busy. We're not free, and we're not allowing ourselves in our lives enough time to be thoughtful, to be introspective, to reach out and have these deep coffees and times with other families and people and stuff. We're not doing it, dude. And I mean, I'm guilty of that just as much as anybody else. I mean, it's just I look at, and I was just talking to my wife the other day about how can we make that different, but I tell you this, even when we've tried, it's like everybody's the same way. They're like, well, we're awful busy with, and it's always a bunch of stuff. We don't ever get, even when we've tried. And it's just the same thing. You get rejected, and even if they want to, it's just like, well, we can't, we got this much, it doesn't work.
Well, I think that's part of the fallen priority, right? Like, I think that somewhere along the way, we as people lost the line between what is an actual priority and what is a want as opposed to a need, right? Like, that's been, like, I feel like our society is just infected with that, man.
Oh,
everything,
I do.
It's such a broken philosophy, right? That we need to, oh my God, this is all I have. Actually, you don't have to do all these things. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, my spirituality is more important than going to the bake sale. My spirituality is more important than, these things are okay to say no to, right? It's not the end of the world if you don't, but it can definitely affect your current worldview if you do, right? Like if you bind into these things that are going to keep you, tied to it. I personally do not find, and I'm just as guilty of it as Tom. So I'm not trying to judge anybody or put anybody on under a spotlight, but what I'm learning as of late and what I've really tried to talk to people about, and there's some people that in my life that have, I've seen some really impressive moves in just saying, you know what? No, I can't do that. I got to do this, right? This is more important. And I feel like we've just forgotten that that's okay. Right.
I did start saying no more to things. And even when it comes to like the girls' activities and stuff, we're very conscious of like, no, we need to have nights where there's not that going on or whatever. And I tell you, as soon as my schooling is done, then it's not going to get replaced with something else.
Well, I mean, for me, I would love to find.
You just need a full one job, dude.
I know, for real. But I would like to find a married couples Bible study, right? Where we study things that are, about relationships, a marriage relationship with Christ, right? I think that, I think there's lots of groups and stuff out there that are cool, but, I think like my wife and I are in a stage of life where we're really, I don't want to say struggling because we're not struggling, but we're really looking for where should we be at this stage, right?
Well, you need a group. This is what's wrong. People, this is one of the things that is very much needed is those just discussion groups that get together in person.
Yeah.
And you just bring up topics and you're just conversing and having a conversation. And you don't want those to be large. You want those to be small.
Yeah.
But you're, the weekly tea at this or whatever, or
coffee
at this at this time every week. That's stuff that's missing in a lot of the communities, dude, especially ours. Like we don't.
And we live in a small community.
It's not like there's, I mean, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to change there if it's possible. But one thing I would like to do, and here's what I'm thinking, even because we have a bunch of people around here and stuff. I kind of want, when the spring comes around, I want to host a just a community barbecue. I'll provide all the daggone food and stuff. I want the whole daggone community come to, my house, and we'll just hang out. And just everybody have a meal together and everything else, because we're all neighbors.
I'll come to your community barbecue, and I don't live in your community.
And I know you would, but I'm just saying, like, it's one of those things where, we need to have more, it should be one of those things where there's like enough of them where you have to like not go to some of them.
Well, I remember back when I was a kid, about once a month, one house in my neighborhood would host an event, and the whole neighborhood would go. And everybody would bring a dish, and we'd all hang out, and, the kids would play together, and the adults would do their thing. And man, that was a really fun and effective way to have a tight community. Right. And, again, I think we're still in this fearful territory, right?
But I'm not fearful. So, and I know there's a lot of people out there that's not. And the only thing holding it back is if someone's not organizing it.
Yeah.
The same thing with the marriage thing. I mean, I tried. I did a Bible study for a long time, but people just slowly came for a couple things, and then it just dissipated.
Well, maybe you and I should organize something. Like, I think that would be cool.
We should.
Right. Look at us organizing community events, making impacts in lives. Look at us.
That's right. Okay, here's something.
Lay it on me.
I know I talked about cussing, foul language, I don't know if it was last episode, the episode before. I kind of reevaluated that, dude, to be honest.
Okay. Lay it on me.
I still stand by the statement that if whatever 4-letter or whatever letter word you use isn't necessarily sinful. But is that the most effective communication way that you can think of? Right?
I would argue that most harshly foul language that I hear usually comes from a position of anger or frustration.
Or ignorance.
So no.
This is what I mean. If you think about this, do I think that Jesus, when he was preaching and teaching and going around with his disciples, do I think he ever used in that culture, some kind of foul language? No. That doesn't seem like there's nothing written about that.
Yeah.
We know that some of his disciples did.
Yeah.
But Jesus himself it just doesn't ring true that he would do that.
No, that's absolutely true.
You know what I'm saying? So if we're trying to emulate Christ, that's what we should be trying to emulate. I'm not saying that you're going to that's that if you drop an F-bomb here or there, that that's cringe or whatever. But I thought about, I've heard some Christian people, and including myself, who've used foul language, right? Mm-hmm. In something like that. And
in some of these episodes, as a matter of fact.
Well,
not terribly harsh, but
okay.
Some expletives.
Yeah.
Me too, by the way. But I did it too. So I'm not judging you.
No. It is what it is, man. But what I'm saying is, like, it deters from the message or your point or whatever you're trying to say. It seems to detract from it more than it adds to it.
Yes, I would agree that it seems to be a distraction at times.
And I'm not saying there's not a place for sometimes using some kind of language here or there, but it's not just I guess where I'm going with this. It's not just your intention. Are you trying to mimic Christ in your communication? Or are you being undisciplined and allowing words that would lessen your content? Right? That's where I'm at. I think okay. I'm more towards like really, and not that I do. So let me clarify this. I don't walk around. I am not an F-bomb thrower guy.
No, you're not.
That's not my thing. I really don't. I detest. I don't like it. It sounds harsh. It's just, to me, it's just something like that. But when I get angry, I've done that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when I do say shit and damn too much, I think, but I question those particular words because they kind of mean poop, and it's not really, you know. But do I want my daughters walking around saying that? Well, no. Well, why don't I want my daughters around? See, this is where my thought process went. It's like, well, if I don't want them saying it, then why am I saying it? It doesn't, you know what I'm saying? It kind of, now also think using words instead of those, that, like if you say dang, well, you're doing the same thing. It's really just, you're just changing a couple letters. It's the same, right?
Fair enough.
You really should, I mean, you know, so it goes, for me, it goes beyond. Okay, let me rope this back to this. The criteria that Jesus put forth for the like perfect living is so high, it goes beyond that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. Any little thing you do is just you know, it's like that little thing off the side of that. You know what I'm saying?
A little jerk of the wheel, right? Like it's not.
You're not. You know, it's not like I'm saying you're going to burn it. You know, that's hellfire kind of shit. No, like right there. I shouldn't have said that. It's not like that, but it's just like you're not as effective of a communicator when you're using words that could be perceived as.
When you are using poo expletives.
Poo expletives. So anyway, I guess that's where I wanted to clarify that from a previous, because I have been thinking about that a lot. Because I do, and I thought, you know, because I think about a lot of things of, I am very, I have to be introspective a lot because I know how far, I am from if our ultimate goal is Christ, holy cow, am I far from that. And everybody is, but I'm saying if we're really trying to be that way and we're serious about it, we should be asking these questions to ourselves all the time. And this is one of them I've been pondering. I talked to my wife about it a little bit and I was like, hey, this is what I've been thinking, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's the hopeful point, right? It's like, I'm speaking for myself that I feel like I should be a more effective communicator. And I'm going to be able to do that better if I alleviate some words from my, you know,
7 years ago.
Look, if I sound too smart, I'm okay with that, right?
Dude, intelligence is not a bad thing.
No.
And dude, I mean, you just got to look at these books, dude. Like that's, you know, and I've been reading a lot lately, like a lot. I just got done with Jordan Peterson's 12 More Rules for Life. Like I've been reading the oddest books, man. I've been reading some nonfiction, like, and some fiction. Just been trying to do a little more of all that. And honestly, I don't really feel like there's a lot of that in what I'm reading. Like, I feel like there was like an era for cursing, right? There was this era where it was the thing, right? And I feel like I do too much of it, especially when I get frustrated and angry, and I'm fully aware of it. But I kind of feel like it's kind of going away a little bit. Like it's starting to fade to the dark, right? That's
what I mean. Like, and I think also it gives us another opportunity to practice discipline.
Very much so.
You know, James, it talks about how your tongue is like the rudder of a ship, and where your tongue goes, your body will follow. And I always thought of that, but we have to understand that the criteria for what is good is so high, you know, and it's like we'll never achieve what that is. But the more we make choices to go not that way, the worse off you are. Right. I mean, so I'm really truly thinking I'm trying to change how I communicate, and that's going to be I mean, you know, that's a tough thing to do if you've been speaking a certain way, your vernacular is a certain way from whatever you've been doing. Speaking of books, though, the latest textbook I have for my one apologetics class this period, man, it's hard for me to read. it's one of those
hard for you to read as in like makes you sad, or is it hard for a read that it's just way out there as far as the level of language?
The level of language is high, which I like that part, because then I'm like, if I have to look up a word anymore, I'm like, ooh, new word, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, because it's so specific, and like it's Keener is his name. He's like, here's an example. There was a whole chapter on like how you would classify the Gospels, like biology, memoirs, and all these different things. And he goes way into it with what a Roman biography would be, what in this time period, what that would be, what a memoir in Jewish, Josephus would be qualified as, and all this stuff. Like it's all this stuff about this classifying the God, which I think is silly anyway, to have that. Like, I don't really care really, but it's part of, once you get to a certain level of I guess theological education, it becomes really, really in depth and goes beyond, like way beyond where nobody's going to think about. So, but I'm just saying, like, it's a lot of big words that are.
So it becomes advanced trigonometry. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Well, now this is a word that gets thrown around theological terms all the time. Eschatological.
Yes.
Like, why that big of a word? You know what I mean? That's just that seems to me like, and hermeneutics.
Yeah, hermeneutics. That's a Vadi Bakum favorite. Hermeneutics.
Like,
hermeneutical.
Yeah. I mean, but I get it, because it's got a specific meaning. But like,
maybe you should tell them what hermeneutics means.
It really just means the study of the language.
Dig it. All right.
But
keep it simple, man.
I know, but like, why the study of the language of the Bible instead of saying hermeneutics, where most laymen are going to be like, what's that mean? What do you say? Herman who? You know? I don't know anybody named Herman. I don't remember seeing nobody named Herman in the Bible. What the hell? You know? Anyway.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So anyway, that's so just speaking of that, I guess. But yeah. We got to talk about the border, maybe, in Texas.
Oh, dude, what a tragic. All right, look. All right, so I want to be very clear as to how I say this, so that there's no. I don't want any venomous backlash, because I'm considered to be anti.
Let's get some backlash.
Let's get some venomous backlash. Look, if you want to come into this country and you want to come in legally and you want to become a citizen and you're willing to go through the measures to become that person, awesome. Welcome to America. You did great. Good on you.
Yeah.
If you're here illegally, if it's been a day or 65 years, you broke the law. And that's why we have laws. That's why we have borders. That's why if you don't have borders, what do we have? Right? Like, you know, I heard the argument, well, they're just invisible lines that separate land masses. No, they're not. It is the actual territorial limit of the country with which you live in, with an enforceable law stating clearly what it takes to become a citizen of that new territory. And unfortunately, we have just gone criminally insane in letting people in mass just come across.
Okay. Well, I just think it's weird. The whole situation, I just think is.
And how so?
Most of us are immigrants. Or we were. And in a point in time, our families came over somehow into this country.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had the way to get into this country has changed so much over the last 100 years, 200 years, whatever you want to say. A lot. And it's too complicated to do that. It's
Yes.
silly. It should not be that complicated. If you're whatever you are, you don't have a criminal record in the country you live in or whatever, you're not associated with a terrorist group that we can find out, which I don't even understand how we couldn't find that out now with the way technology is. Come on now. Which that should be a fairly quick and easy process.
Well, and that's been my argument. I had this discussion before. My argument is not let's open the borders. My argument is if you want to make it easier for people to come into the country, then instead of taking all that money that we pay attorneys to go to court for people that aren't going to show up, because if they do, they're going to get deported, which, by the way, is tens of millions of dollars a year. Why don't you take that money, lobby in Washington, and get the system revamped so that it is easier to come across for people?
What I don't understand, though, and what I should say, it's not that I don't understand it. I just think it's heinous. Is when the federal government comes in and tells a state that they can't do something with their own stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would assume you're talking about
Texas.
Yeah.
And especially when it's that the particular, like Abbott, right?
Yeah.
He was trying to keep, because there's people dying. That's a particular, that stretch of fence that they were trying to tear down was like, it's a really treacherous crossing. Like people en masse die trying to get through that point because there's not a fence there.
Yeah.
And it's that's, I mean, so there's that. And I'll say this. I know a couple of people who live in Texas who live close to there, and they've told me, and this is how I verified, like, yeah, it's like people drown in that Rio Grande part right there. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like all the time. It's like, it's silly. It's a really stupid where to cross, but they're doing it because of it's, the way that was. But I guess I'm just really, there's reasons for this. Don't get me wrong. I understand why the administration is saying to do this, but let me step this back though. The reason why I think the immigration stuff is a problem now is because you have so many like gang affiliations, so many like groups of things that are bringing across
fentanyl, methamphetamine,
all kinds of stuff. That's really what I'm now. Look, I'm kind of anti-drug war as it is, but when you have people that are lacing things with fentanyl, giving kids some candy with some fentanyl in it and all that kind of crap. Yeah, I have a big problem with it, and I'd rather you remove that completely.
Well, I have no problem saying that because of the drug problem, because of the deaths, because of the problems that are coming from the drugs, at this point, we really do need to be a zero tolerance crossing until we solve this problem.
Well, yeah, because that's where they're coming in from.
Yeah.
I mean, you got all these things. You want to talk about just any number of things. There's people coming in through that border, and I've seen these interviews with people coming through the border. There's been some journalists who've actually gone there and said, "Hey, where are you from?" and all that stuff. They're from all kinds of. They're not from Mexico,
El Salvador. There have been
from Africa.
There have been Middle Eastern migrants coming through the border.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's what I don't look. There's a reason to be a little more restrictive of that particular thing.
Well, and here's another thing too, and this is just something, just kind of a side note. If I was the president of Mexico and I wanted to keep good relations with essentially a country that has financed and bankrolled me most of my existence, and America has given
billions and
probably
trillions,
billions of dollars. Yeah, I'd say probably trillions of dollars have gone to the Mexican government. I would have to ask this question. Why does everybody want to escape this country? Why are all of my citizens, why are all of my natural born citizens trying to get out? What is going on within my country that makes them not be proud of where they're from, makes them not desire to be there, and makes them run for the border and to get out. And for me, and don't get me wrong, and I'm going to make a pretty strong statement. I think our current administration is hot garbage. I still don't want to leave America.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I get tired of hearing all these people say America is this and this and this. It's not. People are still trying to get here for a reason.
I mean,
not
it's
just
like
that,
all
but
these celebrities. Get out. If you want to leave, go.
Yeah, you're allowed.
You got money. You can leave.
But I mean, I don't know. I just look at it. This is insane. It's just insane. But it's for reasons. I mean, and this is if you're an intellectual at all, you can figure this out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean no good to say anything here because no one believes it until they go look for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, I'm just like, this is a silly thing. Shouldn't be happening. Shouldn't be a problem. It should be well understood by those who really give a damn. You should understand, know? So anyway, I just thought we'd bring that up, but it's pretty stupid. I know ranchers in Texas whose livelihood's been impacted tremendously by cattle being stolen or butchered or barns being razed, all kinds of things down there. I mean, from illegal immigrants coming across. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's not like it doesn't impact people in a real way. Hell, there was a rancher, his whole family got killed by people. They came across the border and they just
the current immigrant that was in New York that assaulted cops. He proudly trounced himself right out the jail, claimed not to speak English whilst flying hand gestures and being a moron. Okay, I got one for you.
Yep.
All right. So there's been some heightened discussion within my home about this. Do you think? And let me be clear, I think Iran killing U.S. soldiers is an act of war, period.
Okay.
Do you think that this is step one in a larger scale war that will occur?
There's been a lot, but I think there's been a lot of these little incidents over the years, okay? And it hasn't escalated to that fact yet. Mm-hmm. Do I think it eventually will come to a head somewhere? Yeah. Do I think we even... I don't think we should even be in the Middle East. I'm just saying it. I think... get out. We're done.
Biblically, that country will be at war until the second coming.
Yeah. I mean, we're, so... Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's like the precursor to a larger military campaign or not. I don't know, but I would say these things happen a lot. I mean, it's like it's really silly, and we spend billions of dollars trying to doing all this stuff, and it's silly. But yeah, I don't know all the story. And I think it's because you have to look at the media as such, and I don't trust any of it, so I don't know.
Here's where I'm at. And I am a big supporter of our military and first responders.
Yeah.
You took it upon yourself to attack a U.S. military installation and take the lives of U.S. soldiers. I don't care what your reasons are.
No. It really does.
You've stepped over a line now where we are going to have to contact people's families and say, I'm sorry that your husband, wife, brother, sister, father, mother chose to defend and protect our country. They're dead because lunatics, let me say it, lunatics decided to drone strike, I think it was, I'm pretty sure, and kill people. And I think it's shameful on our part that we have not literally sanctioned and just opened up the door on Iran and been like, dude, you can't do this.
You know, the thing,
and the fact that we have such a weak position, that we would allow that to happen is shameful.
But I think that's the current administration too.
Yeah.
Okay. Ronald Reagan would have never. He didn't.
No.
George Bush, he didn't.
I don't even think
Trump didn't.
Trump didn't. Yeah. No.
Bush
Jr. didn't.
When your leadership is weak, your world standing is impacted.
Yeah.
And you're and that's really where we're at. And look, there's no bones about it. Anybody who thinks, I mean, look, at this point, anybody but Biden. Anybody but Biden.
You know, I can't go along with that. I
know there's some other
I can
lunatics.
say no Biden, but we need.
I know we need, but what all I'm saying is that, like, even if I was on the left side of the political spectrum, I couldn't look at the way he is and how he's acted, how he's presented himself, how everything else, and said, yes, that's who we want. And no, it'd be any, if I was on the left, anybody but that guy. He is totally he's by far the worst president we've had in a century. I would say he's way over Carter at this point.
Yeah, at this point.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, look, yes, if someone attacks our house, our military, that's our house.
Mm-hmm.
You defend it and you deter it. You know, that's plain and simple. I'm not saying you need to start a war, but you definitely need to. There's an immediate response that
should come along with it. Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm with that. You asked if it was like the first thing for war, so I don't know, but yeah, we should have already done.
Yeah. Instead, we've
look at after 9/11. Okay, look at all the generals and stuff we had in place at that time. Look at the decisive actions we took, regardless of their. Look, I'm not going to get in the rabbit hole of like the WMDs and all that nonsense. I mean, no, but I'm just saying when we took action, it was like very much clear and it was very much overwhelming. Everyone knew, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, bad move.
That's not going to end well for you. Right now. I don't think our administration can do anything about it. I really don't. I don't.
I'll be honest that I don't think our current administration values valor at all.
I don't even think they know what it means, man.
You know, I think they've been so busy saying mistruths and dishonest things. I don't even think they know where they've started and where they began and where they've ended.
And it's
right.
It's like, I think they're so, this is an election year, man. They are so on tippy toes and everything else, trying to do everything they can. That's really where they're focused. So there's nothing else that matters except for that. So anything that might have any remotely negative reaction, I mean, it's just silly. Your leadership is not okay if that's what is your primary.
And here's the thing for Biden. If you act or would have acted with decisiveness and retaliated decisively and drew that line in the sand and said, you will not, how much more would you be respected?
But I know. And even if they said, look, we can't tell you what we did.
Yeah.
But we did something and they know.
Yeah.
Cause I'm telling you, like the SF people I know personally, are capable of doing some things that you can't understand. And I don't really want to know, you know what I mean? And
certain
I'm fine.
Things I don't need information for.
No, like I'm fine with those type of people.
Yeah.
Taking an action. The whole country doesn't know anything about it, but there's an action that's taken. And this, look, we're press conference. Hey, look, American people, here to tell you we took some action against the Iranian blah, blah, blah. Can't go into the details. Just know that it is taken care of. If your leadership was strong enough, you could do something like that and it would be respected and you would know that something happened.
Yeah.
And then the reporter would ask, well, what'd you do? I can't tell you that. And I'm not going to disclose that or whatever. Just know that Iran knows now not to. But anyway, you can't do stuff like that with an administration who is so weak in the knees that it's just, I'm appalled. I'll be honest. I'm appalled. And I think it's utter, just, well, in your words,
hot garbage.
Hot garbage.
I'm gonna get a t-shirt that says hot garbage.
Brian.
Reggie. Reginald.
That concludes this episode of
It
R&B
does.
Talks. Now that
Like.
everybody knows.
Comment. Hate. Love. Argue. Spit venom. Whatever you want to do.
Hey.
Like, we're here, man. We're here for it. But whatever you do, click that follow button. Subscribe. And you'll get more of this fantastical content.
Peace, love, joy.
Laters.
R&B Talks. See ya.
Bye.